Okay, so from a reader's perspective, 5 differences in web versus radio writing. Um, so let's talk about some things. The journey isn't as important as the facts, so give me those first. You saw this in the Julie Rovner example where uh, instead of having that long journey, learning about the people playing the we and that character development, in the web story, she went right to the experts. She went to the numbers and got into that pretty much right away. So that's something that we really want as the online user. Um, You'll also be judged for poor grammar, spelling, and punctuation. This is the case with your on-air stories. Well, not so much spelling, and punctuation, but definitely grammar. One thing we've seen with at least a couple member stations is they're actually hiring copy editors. I find this really fascinating because what they do is they will have a copy editor come in for a few hours a day part-time and check their work just to make sure that everything looks good. So that's something to keep in mind. Of course, most people just go to their news director just having an edit is really helpful, even if it's with a colleague or with a peer. If you can say it better than your source, summarize. You do this for on air, especially when you have unwieldy tape. Definitely do this with your online work too. If there's a quote, if there's information that's just too big, too chunky, interpret that for your audience and summarize. Okay, so multiple ideas in one story won't confuse me. I can reread. In that Julie Rovner story, she talked about the economic impact at the very end, or the long-term impact at the very end, and it was just a sentence. But with the online story, you saw how she chunked it out. She went really deep into the longer-term consequences. So you can introduce multiple stories because the reading experience is different. We can go back. Details. We like details in our online stories. It shows that you know what you're talking about. So like with the radio intro, there's a lot of words like more or less or most. That makes sense. I can't, it's hard for me to process all of that when I'm driving or when I'm listening. But, with online, we want the numbers. We want to know. Okay, so some similarities. A good story is a good story is a good story. A good story in any medium is a good story. So just like you express your editorial values, the ones that you have for on air, express them online. I mean, you have a certain sense of story selection. You have editorial values, so express those online. Just be mindful of some stories that work better on the web, say like a photo of videos, numbers, maybe you have a particular beat. Sound might be a bit of a harder sell, but I mean, it works online too. Simple writing is the clearest writing, subject, verb, object. We practice this with radio. It works great online. Subhead signal a change. We have R cues in radio, like a pause or a music button. We use subheads to show signal a change in topic, and I will show you an example of this in just a moment. If it's good, I'll stay. I'll add you to a preset or to a Facebook, give you a Facebook like. People's names are important, just as you go to great lengths to get the pronunciation correct. Spelling is important too. Okay, I have a question about said versus says, but I'll get to that in just a moment. So that's it for features.